Hello everyone, I'm Brian, and today I'm going to be reacting to Bhagavad Gita Made Easy Part 3. Let's go ahead and get started.
Groundbreaking revelation of his cosmic form, Krishna once again turns his discourse in a new direction. Now he begins to expand on the philosophy of Sankhya. As mentioned, Sankhya is a process of analysis which distinguishes what is material in nature and what is spiritual in nature. Arjuna, you should also understand that I am the knower of the fields, present within all fields. Knowledge of both the field and the knower of the field is knowledge indeed. The field, as Krishna puts it, is our body which is part of creation, and within this body is the knower which is Krishna himself. He is the witness within each and every living being. This body, like all of the material world, is made up of the 24 elements. This can be broken down into dormant, non-manifested matter, the 5 elements of creation, the ego, intellect and mind. There is also the 5 organs of action, the 5 senses of perception, and the 5 objects that are perceived.
5 organs of action: hand, feet, voice. That's weird. Why is this? I get the last one, genitalia, but the anus. I'm wondering if it's just weird. I'm wondering if maybe the digestive system would be maybe better. I don't know. Then again, I'm not writing this, but I get the hands, feet, the voice, hands to manipulate objects, feet to move around. Now, that's not to say that animals. I'm assuming this applies to every living thing here anyway. That hands is a means of manipulation of the world. Feet is a means of what do I say? I was going to say motivation, but no, mobility in the world. Voice is a means of communicating. And genitalia as a means of reproduction. Then the anus, I figured it would have been more means of consumption, eating, and getting the nutrients from that. Then the 5 elements. That makes sense. 5 senses of perception are 5 senses. Again, that makes sense. 5 objects perceived: form. Okay, that's with our sight. Sounds with our ears. Touch with our feel, I guess. Because, you know, sight for form, hearing for sound, touch for touch, I assume feel. But taste for flavor, smell for aroma, stimulus. Okay. And then ego, intellect, and mind. Whoa, mind, intellect, and ego. Okay, I've not heard those split up before. Mind is, that's not the physical brain, is it? Intellect is your knowledge, ego is your personality, mind. I hope he explains all this. This is very interesting.
All this together makes up the field of matter. But when one has jnana or spiritual wisdom, one can see through this superficial creation. Such a person has detachment from the objects of the senses, is free of ego, and perceives the misery of birth, death, old age, disease, and suffering. Wisdom allows us to recognize the shallow material world and detach from the field. But when this is done, what is it that we should know? What should we strive to realize? Krishna describes the thing to be known as having its hands and feet everywhere in the world. It has its eyes, ears, heads and mouths everywhere, and thus it pervades all things. Essentially, it is this divine mystery that we should try to realize. This divinity permeates everything. It is outside and within, both near and far. It exists, yet it does not exist. This is Krishna. Once we have come to realize that we are not this body, once we have developed this state of detachment, we move to the realization of our relationship with Krishna. His unfathomable presence within us and within everything becomes apparent. Knowing this state is the goal of life. Krishna states that both the Purusha or soul and Prakriti or matter have actually existed eternally and have not been created. The Purusha, when in contact with Prakriti, becomes subject to joy and sorrow. This entanglement causes one to be born again repeatedly. But one who is able to understand this process becomes free from the influence of material nature. They realize that all action happens within Prakriti and they as the Purusha remain unstained and untouched. In chapter 14, Krishna explains the importance of the three gunas.
Sorry, let me go back real quick. Oops. I forgot to turn off. No. Krishna states that both Purusha and Prakriti have actually existed eternally and have not been created. That's very interesting. I thought everything was Krishna, so... Right? Or am I wrong? Krishna states that both Purusha and Prakriti, oh my gosh, I can't even say that, it's actually existed eternally and have not been created. But, because in the, I can't remember which chapter, he explains that everything, the fabric of the universe is him himself, that he's not bound by it, but he is it. So, being the soul and the matter itself, also being Krishna. So, this just to me sounds like that he didn't have anything to do with these two, that they've always existed outside of him. Let me know if I'm misunderstanding that, because that's what I'm getting from that. Krishna states that both Purusha and Prakriti have actually existed eternally and have not been created. But he is eternal as well, so therefore those two things are a part of him. Let me know if I'm wrong, because again, that's how I'm understanding it at the moment.
Soul and Prakriti, or matter, have actually existed eternally and have not been created. The Purusha, when in contact with Prakriti, becomes subject to joy and sorrow. This entanglement causes one to be born again repeatedly. But one who is able to understand this process becomes free from the influence of material nature. They realize that all action happens within Prakriti, and they, as the Purusha, remain unstained and untouched. In chapter 14, Krishna explains the importance of the three gunas. These qualities influence Prakriti, or material existence, and therefore play a major role in dictating our spiritual evolution. Sattva is goodness and causes illumination and knowledge. Rajas is passion, which forces us to act and engage. Tamas is ignorance, which brings negligence and idleness. These gunas are constantly in flux, with one becoming more dominant than the others. The balance between these gunas is what decides the nature of the experience we have. If sattva prevails within, we'll be elevated to grow on our spiritual path. Rajas binds us to the results of action, causing us to stay entrapped where we are. And tamas, however, degrades and drags us down to lower planes of existence. In later chapters, Krishna explains exactly how the gunas affect all aspects of life. The goal of life, however, is to reach that state beyond the gunas, a state which is untainted by their influence. Such a person is free. He remains indifferent, as if undisturbed by the gunas, thinking it is the gunas alone that are active. He thus remains steady and does not waver.
I will say this, man. Good on this person. He does an amazing job in explaining this with with the last scene where you see him hopping between the three gunas. Please go support this guy. Links in the description. He I gotta watch more of his stuff, but please go watch his stuff. I'm rotating through different gurus and swamis, so I hope to push this further back to encourage you to go watch some of his things. Please do support his channel.
One who has transcended the gunas is beyond material existence, beyond duality. Like with Karma Yoga, Krishna makes clear that if we realize that we are the Atma, we become the witness. The body and mind may be subject to Prakriti, controlled by the gunas, but we as the soul are aloof and beyond their influence. In chapter 15, Krishna compares this entanglement with the material world and gunas to an inverted, upside down banyan tree. With its branches below and roots above, it seems to have no beginning or end. But if we can surrender to the Supreme and be aware of who we truly are, the Atman, then we can cut through the tree and gain freedom. We reach the supreme abode of Krishna, from which we do not return. Krishna makes clear that our soul, the jiva, is actually a part of him. As it enters material existence, it draws to it the senses, mind and body. In every incarnation, we create impressions or samskaras through different experiences we have. Just as a wind carries aromas from place to place, the soul carries these impressions from previous lives to the next incarnation. This is how karma works. The jiva is untouched by anything material, but the force of previous desires and actions propels one to the next birth. Krishna reminds Arjuna that it is not only the soul which is a part of him, his presence is also inextricably woven into the physical universe.
Okay, I might pause and think about this for a little bit, only because I've talked about this in some other videos where if we are all Brahman or Krishna, everything is not, there's no separation between us and Krishna, and if there's a separation between us, how is there a separation in this karmic impressions? Because our true selves would be Krishna or Brahman, so these karmic impressions, or I forgot what it was called before, or what I called it before, would imply on the true self, on the Atman. So, and Atman being Krishna, Brahman, again, Krishna and Brahman the same? I'm not sure. But anyways, if we're all Krishna, going with the video here, then these karmic impressions are of Krishna's impressions, is it not? I mean, the reality is that we are Krishna, so therefore these karmic impressions are of Krishna's, because we are Krishna. Unless there's a way to separate them. That's the issue I had with that one video, is the fact that if it was all Brahman, then therefore these these impressions, I can't remember what it was called back then, or it might have been a different video, like two separate videos explaining Brahman, we're all Brahman, and then the karmic impressions. Anyways, that means there's this large pool of karmic impressions, because everyone is Krishna. So there's only one karmic impression pool, I assume, because again, we are all Krishna. Our souls are all Krishna. There's no separation between us and Krishna. If there is a separation between us, then that would make sense, because then this is us and Krishna is its own. But if we are truly Krishna, again, you can try to explain that to me. I think someone tried to explain it before, but the sheer fact that I thought this might have fit that puzzle for me, because we see it bouncing between people, but the sheer fact that that's this thing that's navigating through these bodies is Krishna. Even the bodies themselves is Krishna, but the karmic expression is Krishna as well, because everything, the immaterial and material world, is Krishna. I guess I'm trying to find a way to separate this karmic impressions away from Krishna, or find a way for it to kind of contain itself, that even though it's still part of Krishna, that it is something separate, that it's able to contain itself, as it seems like it has to be something separate. I haven't quite puzzled that piece together yet. It's kind of like an ocean, as people say, and then you drop like a colored dye in the ocean, and it just basically just disappears. It blends in with all of the. It doesn't quite expand out in the ocean, but eventually it will expand out to at least a lake it's nearby or something. Or let's do it like a pond. That'd be much better explanation. There's a pond, and this pond is Krishna, or everything, basic existence itself. You drop a little dye in it, and it'll permeate the entirety of the pond. So that's that little drop is, say, the karmic impressions. Put one drop, it just permeates the entire pond. It doesn't stay in its little tiny bubble. It can't. That's what I'm trying to point out now. I think that's a good way to express my, I won't say issue, but how I understand it, and how it's not quite fitting for me, because we think of this thing as the pond, and yet this karmic impression is just able to sustain itself within the pond itself, because the pond itself, everything's water, everything's Krishna, and then this karmic impression is also part of that pond as water. But how is it able to keep itself together when itself is water as well, or Krishna? It would permeate the entire pond. It'd be, you know what I'm saying? Explain that to me. I think that's the reason why it's not quite clicking for me.
The energy emanating from the sun, which illumines the entire universe, and that of the moon and fire as well, You should know that energy to be mine alone. This aspect of Krishna which enters this world and sustains it is known as the Paramatman. The energy of this universe, even our own bodies, are governed by the potency of Krishna. The power of the sun, the light of the moon, even our ability to digest food is all run by the unseen force of Krishna. This material world is kshara, or subject to decay and change. Our soul, or Purusha, however, is constant and eternal. But even above this soul, there is the Purushottama, or Supreme Person, Krishna himself. Like in chapter 7, Krishna outlines 3 levels of existence, all of which are governed and part of him.
I will say this, I really love the drawings of Krishna, especially with Arjuna, and the one that usually goes up in the not this corner, but the further corner out. I would love to see pictures of this stuff. It looked really well drawn. And is this how he's typically presented? Oof, I definitely would love to see more images of that.
Chapter 16 enters a new topic altogether, in which Krishna outlines the character and qualities of what he calls the Devi Sampad, the nature of the gods, and the Asuri Sampad, the way of the Asuras. The Devas are those who dwell in the higher planes of existence and are perpetually in conflict with their evil and arrogant cousins, the Asuras. The way of the gods is described as one of virtue and nobility. Not harming, truthfulness, avoiding anger, renunciation, never malaligning others, compassion for other beings, and never wavering. It is these qualities which pave the way for one to achieve liberation from continual rebirth, whereas the path of the Asuras leads us to further bondage. In the next few verses, Krishna describes at length the nature of someone who follows the Asuric way. Having hatred to all, they engage in cruel deeds and bring destruction to the world. Being distracted by so many different notions, entangled in a net of delusion, and addicted to the enjoyment of their senses, they fall down into an impure state of hell. Essentially, one who is ruled by Asuric qualities lives to feed the ego. They care nothing for higher ideals, and are cruel and selfish. They are motivated solely by material success, and cannot recognize anything beyond this physical world. Instead of acknowledging the unseen presence of Krishna, they believe that they are the doer of action, the enjoyer of all pleasure, and the reservoir of all power. Such persons repeatedly fall to lower worlds and suffer the consequences for their hatred and immorality. Krishna specifically points out desire, anger, and greed as the principal vices which open the doorway to these lower realms. He asks Arjuna to abandon such qualities and take seriously the ideals contained in the revealed scriptures. But Arjuna asks in response, what if one ignores the scriptures and acts of his own will? What will be their fate? Krishna replies that it depends on the gunas that are predominant. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas dictate the nature of a person. As mentioned, Sattva will inevitably cause one to achieve higher progress. Rajas will bind one into materialism, and Tamas will drag one down. Based on this theme, Krishna describes a number of things in relation to these gunas. Some perform rituals selflessly for a higher ideal. Others do them for material gain, and there are still those who perform them carelessly and without faith. Gaining
Just gonna rewind that real quick. That last part.
Gain, and there are still those who perform them carelessly and without faith.
This is the reason why. There's one commenter actually that said that he didn't see any changes within me. Like, you know, I think you watched a lot of my videos, or I don't know if you watched all or a lot, but this is, I guess this last part is very much why maybe you don't see any change in me, is because I cannot just believe in something. It's like, oh, I believe it, therefore I'm changed. No. I have to be able to experience it, and what I mean by that is that it's not necessarily that I have to practice it, but it has to, I guess, in how I work, it has to make sense. Because by practicing it, I would have to believe it, but the problem is it'd be without faith. It wouldn't be with belief in it. There has, and this is the thing that I just thought of. Can't remember if it's this video or the last video, but because I was thinking to myself that maybe I'm ready for a little bit of the crazier stuff from Sadhguru, but I'm not sure yet. But the link between the material world, or the things that is very easily explained by materialistic things, and then these other world, there has to be a bridge there for me to connect the two worlds, to walk there, to understand or believe more than just faith. But without that bridge, I cannot do this other world, because it's completely contradictory. So there must be something that links those two for me to start, I guess. And that's what I'm talking about. It's the fact that until he said that, I didn't realize it was probably Thomas. Maybe I'm misunderstanding a little bit. But basically, I cannot just go into something and believe it without actually believing in it, you know, where I was like, oh, this is very much a possibility, let me go ahead and do it, kind of deal. So I cannot just do something. There's a fine line there. I can do something, but at the same time, there still has to have that bridge or that thing that's like, okay, I can see this, kind of deal, and then to do it, as opposed to just having nothing at all and then doing it. That will not, I don't think that will ever work for me. That goes contradictory to, I guess, my beliefs, and I think it maybe Thomas is the reason why.
Gaining control of ourselves is also important, but performing such austerity can be done in different ways. Ideally, the body, speech and mind should be restrained for the benefit of others and to remain in a serene state. But we can also use austerity to feed our spiritual pride and make us believe we are an advanced seeker. There are even those who mistakenly use austerity to destroy their body and inflict pain upon themselves. Giving charity to others is also a wonderful thing, but how we give is critical. When we
So giving charity to others is wonderful, but how we give is critical. I do genuinely believe in that. I don't necessarily give money directly to the people in need. So like when you see homeless people and stuff, I hate the fact that I see them out there and I want to do something, but I can't. I don't want to give money because how do I say, I don't know how that's going to be spent. It's kind of like donating even to like charitable organizations, because if I give the money to them, I don't know where it's going. I'd much rather go and buy something like food or water and give to them than money. Don't know why, that's just the way I am. I still do donate sometimes, like to charitable organizations, but not very much. Well, because I don't really have the money, but I do when I can, and even whenever I can, sometimes I don't, just because I don't know where the money's going, genuinely. Perhaps if I'm rich, then I don't care where the money's going, and then I just donate.
Giving charity to others is also a wonderful thing, but how we give is critical. When we give in a detached way to the right people at the right time, it is sattvic. When we give to receive the respect and accolade of others, it is rajasic.
Maybe this is not, what this person's doing. Maybe just wants it as like a way to keep memory, You take pictures for memory purposes, for memory's sake. But there are people out there who do that. Oh, hold on. Smile. And then he's like, I've helped out so many people just to get some ego boost. Oh my god. I do wonder if there's more people out there doing that for ego purposes than really helping. I don't know. Then there's also, of course, the religious ones that go out there. There's a in a sense, I don't know if you want to call it a win-win, but there are religious organizations who go out there genuinely to help people out and to spread their word of religion, but sometimes not even forcefully. It's just to say, this is what I do, and they still go help people and they spread their word if they're willing. That's amazing, fantastic. But then there are other people out there who don't do that. They go there to spread the word and spread the word only. I've seen some documentaries that done that, but I don't know what percentage is doing that for the purpose of just spreading the word, and those who are actually genuinely trying to help people.
And when we give to those who are unsuitable at the wrong place and time, it is tamasic. By highlighting these points, Krishna explains to Arjuna that in every aspect of life we have a choice to give in to laziness and ignorance, to indulge in selfishness and greed, or to strive and engage with life in a way that elevates us to truth. Now the Gita enters into the final 18th chapter. So far, Krishna has been talking about austerity, rituals and charity. But now Arjuna wants to know if such acts can be renounced when one has progressed to a higher spiritual realization. Krishna is clear, as he has been in earlier chapters on Karma Yoga, that actions and duties must not be abandoned. Those who are filled with tamas renounce their duties out of delusion. Others who are rajasic do so because of the fear of suffering. But real sattvic renunciation is done on an inner level, not the outer.
I definitely want to know more about these three gunas. More, how to say, more defined of these things to expand upon that. It's very interesting.
Whether our duty is pleasing or not, the mature seeker always carries it out. Krishna then describes the nature of action further. For any action to happen, there needs to be a location, a performer of action, the senses which engage with creation, the actual effort to act, and destiny. In saying this, Krishna makes clear that destiny is just one factor. Life is not completely predetermined by fate or karma.
I was going to say, sorry, let me rewind that because I want to see. Okay, location, the place that the action so happens to take place. The performers, because it could be multiple people doing the same thing, or excuse me, or the person doing it to someone. So the one that's doing the action and the one that's receiving the action. Senses, I mean, I guess that's our bodily senses, and effort, the amount of effort you put into it. And destiny, I was going to say I don't believe in destiny or faith. Although this is to put, I think a lot of people, let me know what your definition of destiny is. Leave it in the comments below before I say it, so pause it if you want to. But 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Destiny, I can see some people saying that destiny is things that you cannot control in life. Well, it's obviously, but I think there are also people who says that there's a certain path that you take regardless, that that you're determined, you have a determined path basically, and that there's nothing you can do to change it. That is your destiny. I can see some people, actually the other one was things you can control in life, which is very much true, but it's not destiny. I misinterpret that. But I don't believe in destiny. I don't believe there's any, that your life is not determined by anything but by your own actions. And obviously there are things in life that you cannot control which can affect your life, which is other people or other objects in life. Something that Sadhguru talks about a lot, which is the fact that you have control over your body, control over your actions, and you do not have control over a lot of the external things.
Just one factor. Life is not completely predetermined by fate or karma. Our effort, blended together with the results of past actions, creates future circumstances. But as stated numerous times, if one has risen to that place where they no longer perceive themselves as the doer of action, then they are free of all karmic consequences. Like in the previous chapter, Krishna continues to give Arjuna more grounding practical knowledge about different aspects of life in relation to the gunas. To act, one needs intelligence. The intelligence which can discriminate what should and shouldn't be done is sattvic. But where there is confusion on these matters, one is rooted in rajas. But the worst of all is when one assumes through stupidity that what is righteous is actually unrighteous, and more dangerously, perceives that what is unrighteous is righteous.
Oh man. Wonderful, wonderful.
Even the kind of happiness we experience has its place in the gunas. Sometimes things in life appear as poison in the beginning, but gradually mature into nectar because of clarity and acceptance. But often what appears as exciting and joyful in the beginning ends up bringing suffering. And happiness, which is delusional, is based on stupidity and ignorance.
Wow.
Krishna spent...
Sorry, I absolutely want to know this chapter. Because I want him to expand more into that. That's why whenever I'm picking out these chapters, it's not to say that others are not interesting, but others are, like, I guess I've either experienced them in some way, maybe not personally, but seen them, and maybe want more knowledge in them because it is something that I notice. Other chapters maybe I don't notice so much, and maybe if I hear them out, it might expand upon my knowledge, or maybe it's still something that I've not experienced. I don't know. But like this one, I want to know more about delusional state. Why does... Oh, wait, sorry.
Happiness, which is delusional, is based on
A lot of
stupidity
drinking,
and
yeah.
ignorance. Krishna spends significant time with Arjuna walking through the gunas. By understanding these ideas, we are given a framework to self-analyze. Through introspection, one can constantly assess which guna is dominating us in that particular moment. As a result, one can discover the qualities we have which are elevating, binding, or degrading us. Next, Krishna explains the four varnas or divisions that exist within society, namely the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Each of them displays certain qualities which allow them to carry out certain roles within society. While Krishna always states that everyone is equal since everyone has a divine Atman within, not everybody is the same since we all display different characteristics. Brahmins are tranquil, filled with honesty and patience. Kshatriyas are heroic, charitable and full of energy. Vaishyas deal with business and agriculture. And Shudras look to serve others.
Brahmins, Shudras. So far seems like me. Am I heroic and energetic? Semi. Not so much energetic though. Business and agricultural? Kinda. I mean, but the energetic portion is the reason why I'm not quite business or agriculture. Not agriculture, not at all. Business, oh, that's what this channel's about. Kinda. Not about business, but starting up the channel. Service to others. Not successful at it, but I try. I mean, having a job alone, generally speaking, this is service to others for the most part. Tranquil and honest. Well, I guess I might not be as tranquil, but I try to be honest. So I guess I am failing in all accounts. There we go. All equality.
In this way, Krishna explains that every individual has a unique purpose or dharma. Even though it may have faults, one's own dharma is still superior to accepting the dharma of another, even if that dharma is perfectly observed. Krishna reinforces the idea that the dharma or duty that we are faced with should not be abandoned. Life.
Hold on. Even though it may have faults, one's own dharma is still superior to accepting the dharma. Oh, okay. I misunderstood that. I thought it says it's superior to accept another's dharma, but I for some odd reason didn't click. It said one's own dharma is still superior to accepting the dharma of another. Okay, I got it.
The idea that the dharma or duty that we are faced with should not be abandoned. Life has given us a path and a role in the world. Even if we make mistakes, it is better to carry on in our path rather than taking up another duty not meant for us. If we do our duty without attachment, then we are practicing karma yoga. This yoga will inevitably bring mastery over our mind and senses and lead us to going within and finding our true self. When one is established in this way, beyond the sways of pain and pleasure, then real love for Krishna manifests. Such a person knows Krishna as he really is and enters into him. Therefore, Krishna urges Arjuna to focus his mind upon him. He tells him not to give in to pride and run away from his dharma. But ultimately, the decision to fight is down to Arjuna. I have now revealed to you this wisdom, which is the deepest of all mysteries. After fully considering what you have heard, you should then act as you see fit. Despite being the Supreme Lord, despite having clearly instructed Arjuna, Krishna does not force him. He is not a deity that inflicts punishment for those who wish to pursue their own ideas. Spirituality is an experience, and we have the free will to choose if we want to progress or not.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And again, that's I've said in earlier videos that as I was growing up in the Western world, that it was very interesting that it's very strict in terms of ways of life. Religion is a way of life, so that's one part, but also non-religion is a way of life as well. Again, as long as it's a way to live your life, it is a way of life, in my opinion, and I like that phrase. But it's so, whenever I look into these religions, it's just because that's the only thing that we have over here. I've not really experienced philosophy, but it's so restrictive. It's so crazy. It's like I can't live like this. I can't choose this because it's not good. But then I was reacting to his videos, and you can find out in Hinduism, it was like, yeah, we accept you as you are, and just follow your path, do good, and be happy. And if you choose to be a terrible person, well, you just relive this life. I'm like, holy crap, that's amazing, so mind blowing that there's a way of life out there that doesn't say you have to do anything. It advises you to do good, but ultimately you make the decision for yourself, and that's fantastic. I can definitely get behind that for sure.
Finally, after delivering so much teaching, after going through all different yogas, techniques and paths, Krishna delivers the most powerful and clearest instruction to Arjuna. Abandoning all types of dharma, take shelter with me alone. I will deliver you from all sins, so do not grieve. This is the closing teaching of Krishna, that whatever we have in our minds, whatever ideas and philosophies we have constructed, we need to abandon them. Emptied of all pride, we should give ourselves at the feet of Krishna. Even though we may be unqualified, caught by this material existence, there is nothing to fear. If we offer everything to Krishna, he will wipe the slate clean. The devotee is one who takes shelter and sees that Krishna is the only refuge. He knows that through his grace, he will be liberated. This is Krishna's emphatic promise to his devotees. Having heard this statement of Krishna, all of Arjuna's doubts, all his fears have been eradicated. From a helpless, distraught state, Krishna has brought him to the point of pure surrender. Sanjaya has been narrating the whole discourse to King Dhritarashtra. He rejoices in ecstasy at everything he has seen and heard. As if warning the king, Sanjaya finally states, "Wherever there is Krishna, the master of yoga, and wherever there is Arjuna who bears the bow, there will always be good fortune, victory, success and good judgment. This is my opinion." Thus ends the Bhagavad Gita. This sacred conversation between Arjuna and Krishna has formed the foundation of Indian spirituality for millennia. It has consoled and inspired people from all walks of life, from great acharyas to Western philosophers. This three-part series has only scratched the surface of the Gita, but will hopefully allow you to go deeper into the timeless wisdom it contains. Many thanks for listening.
Chapter 13, Understanding the different elements which make up the field or matter. That Krishna is a knower of this field with each person. We have to know the mysteries of our relationship with Krishna and understand how the soul, Purusha, becomes entangled with matter, Prakriti. I am butchering those words. Chapter 14, Understanding how the three gunas, sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, tamas, ignorance, dictate our experiences with matter. Sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, tamas, ignorance. Chapter 15, Realizing how we should detach from material matter, understanding that the jiva soul is part of Krishna that enters this world. It carries impressions from the past experiences from one life to the next. This physical world is run by Krishna's energy, so the world and the jivas all exist within Krishna. Chapter 16, Krishna describes two paths, the virtuous way of the devas and the demonic way of the asuras. Chapter 17, how the gunas affect life, ethics, food, austerity, ritual, and charity. Why is food and ethics? Food, austerity. Must have missed that one, or it went by me. Chapter 18, the gunas in relations to reunification. Nope. Renunciation, sorry. Reunification. Okay, the gunas relation to renunciation, knowledge, action, intentions, intelligence, and happiness, the 5 factors of action, the 4 varnas, the importance of dharma, how karma yoga leads to self-realization, which peaks in love for Krishna, and the final teachings of grace and complete surrender. Renunciation. I definitely need to look. Hold on. You know what? I'm gonna look right now. I'll be right back. Okay, so I do have the Living Gita, the complete Bhagavad Gita, a commentary for modern reading. by Sri Swami Sachidananda. Let's see, narrated by Piyush Agarwal. Sorry. Let's see if whoopsie. Oh, it's downloading. How did I not have that downloaded? I want to go to it. Oh, well. Anyways, so yeah, the books I have is Inner Engineering, which have 6 hours and 39 minutes left. That one, and Karma by Sadhguru as well. And Norse Mythology, and Before the Storm, which is a World of Warcraft book, which I have for a long time. Norse Mythology and the World of Warcraft book I had for a long time, never played it. Although I don't really care to, even though I'm curious about Norse mythology more so. Anyways, I do have the Bhagavad Gita. Hopefully it's a good book that I picked out. I'm not sure. So anyways, that's my reaction to Bhagavad Gita Made Easy Part 3. This dude is amazing. Please check out his other videos and recommend some for me. Again, a restriction of 30 has to be at least 30 days old, because I don't believe in grabbing something they just put out and stealing their views. I'd much prefer a year or older, just because at that point most of their viewers have seen it. And I hope to encourage people to go to these channels, these gurus, swamis, or whatever channel I happen to watch or react to, and to encourage people to go to their channel and watch their other content as well. Again, that's the way to support the people who are doing these things. So anyways, that's the end of that. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.